with you this morning. One of the things is our children's ministry is accepting supplies for the birthday boxes. And what that is if you would like to donate like cake mixes, pans, flour, oil, whatever it would take to make a birthday cake, then they will be transitioning that to our food pantry. And then whenever there's a need for people who don't have the resources to provide that, they're going to give that as like a package to people to provide a birthday cake for their kids. So if you have any questions, go up to the kids ministry area there, and they can share a little more information with you on that. For those of you who get our weekly emails, you will see that there is a tab for the Luke reading challenge, and right now we're in the book of Luke. And if you get that email, you will see that on that communication. It is also on our Facebook page as well. And in leading into that, we have connection cards. So if you're new, if you could just provide some information, but also you can get connected on that weekly email that is sent out to everyone on the list, and you'll see what's going on and all the upcoming events. Also, we have a prayer ministry here too called MASH. So if you see anyone that has the MASH lanyard on, you can go up to them and pray with them or talk with them about anything that's going on in your life during or after the service. Enjoy the message.
I'm not used to sitting all the way back here. Hey, everybody. The Abbeys decided to take my spot today, so I had to find a new spot. Good morning, church. It's great to be with you this morning. Thanks. That was nice. So my name is Zach. I'm the lead pastor here at the River Church. And I need to give you a little bit of backstory before we jump into what the ladies are here to talk about. So I jumped on board in December of 2017 here at the River Church. And one of the things that became abundantly clear to me is that this church is a little bit different than just a standard church. Maybe abundantly clear isn't enough. It was clear, like, without a shadow of a doubt, there's something different about this body, there's something different about this congregation. And when I first started, we started asking ourselves, what makes us different? What is it that we bring to the community that lifts Jesus up the best way possible? So we started having conversations, and in a number of ways, we've gotten to a different place in just a year. And today we're going to be talking about something that, if this is your first time here, if this is your second time here, third time here, I need to give you a little backstory before we jump into exactly what we're talking about. About 6 or so months ago, we started exploring different options in terms of how we're going to do church going forward, what that means. And we started thinking about what does it mean to potentially not be in this space, in this building. And given a couple things that God has lined up, back in September, we told the church that we have intentions to move out of this space and put together a team of people to kind of formulate a concept, a plan of action going forward, so that we would have, when we're ready to move out, we have a place to move out into, and that's where these ladies kind of come in. So a team was formed right after our annual meeting in October, led by Rachel, who's our director of communications here at the church. And they had been meeting weekly to go through things, go through buildings, go through ideas that would lead us to the next step of our journey as the River Church. And that's where we're here today. Did I leave anything out? I feel like if you have questions about that, don't be afraid to ask. We are going to have, I didn't tell the AV team, we are going to have just a short time for questions and answers after they're all done presenting. Chris, is that going to be okay? Perfect. So there will be time to ask questions, and feel free to ask whatever questions you have on your heart. I can't say that we're going to be able to answer everything, but we're going to give it all that we got. My hope in this entire process has been to be as transparent as possible and to really be as open as possible to whatever the Spirit's going to lead us into and whatever really our team of four that has kind of put this idea in front of us. So there's a whole lot we're about to throw at you. If you miss any of it, please, please, please ask questions of us later. Based on the weather, it might take you a week to get out of whatever the vortex is going to happen. So if it takes you a week to ask questions, please feel free to contact me or the office, and we're perfectly happy to answer questions the best way we can. I just want to say, before I let them just do their thing, this process has been incredibly humbling. If you would have told me in August of 2017 that you're going to pastor a church and that church is going to move out of the building that they've been in for 13 years within the first year and a half, I would have said, I'm not taking that job. But God has humbled me throughout this whole process. God has humbled me through just in communication with this great group of women who's just been really a pleasure to work with. And I can't wait for you to hear their heart, and I'm just going to get out of the way. So there's that. I don't even know where to go, but I'm just going to look at my sheet because Rachel has given me all the questions. She's the best. So here, this is my first question. I'm going to try to not talk as best I can, and if I do, Dustman, throw something at me, okay? All right, great. Or just kick me off stage. I'm okay. But so Rachel, I asked Rachel to be kind of the head of the team, and from there, can we talk about how the team was formed, what it looked like, why we put it together the way we did?
Yeah. So after Pastor Zach asked if I would be willing to head up this process, I knew that God was going to have to put together a great group of people, and that is exactly what he did. The goal in the process was for this team to be represented kind of by the key ministries that we currently have here at the River Church. So the hospitality team, the worship team, and then also our kids ministry. And as we went through the process, the goal in looking at every space was to accommodate those ministries as effectively and efficiently as we possibly could. So after the annual business meeting, honestly, the team was formed pretty much that day. God was just very faithful in bringing who we needed, who is Sarah Meyer is not here today, but she was an amazing part of the team as well. And so it ended up being Sarah, Jesse, Kate, and myself.
Great. So we are going to tell you an update in the process, but I do want them to have an opportunity. They've been meeting, like I said, weekly. Can you guys talk about the process, things that you learned, anything that has struck you about this process as you've gone about it in the last few months?
You want to kick that off? Sure. I will kick that off. So our main goal when we began the process was that we would be committed to walking through every open door that God presented to us. Some of those doors closed with a phone call. Some spaces we were very excited to go and check out, and we genuinely thought, oh my gosh, we found it. And we would pull in, and within maybe just pulling in, we're like, you know what, this isn't the space. And there were times in the process where, you know, you're riding this high where you think you found it, and then within hours you get a phone call, it's just not going to work out. But what we knew all along, and what just God kept driving home, is that the direction that the River Church is headed in and the location that we are going to be meeting in had to align in the most perfect way that only God could do. And some conventional spaces that you would think would be the ideal location, God just made it clear, no, that is not what I have for you. I have something else. And I just keep thinking about God being a gentleman and him just loving his church and wanting the very best. And what we saw in this process is him just reveal that to us in ways that we could not have asked or imagined.
Yeah, and I'll even kind of just speak to what Pastor Zach had said too. He said yes to this job back in December, and when I think about like this process, the transition team started in October. That's when the four of us came together and started having these conversations of what comes next. But really, this process and this transition started when Pastor Zach said yes. If you went back and listened to the messages that he has written and shared with us from January 1 till today, it's all just been this progression of really steering us in this direction, a thought of how do we do church differently. And so we as a church have come together and we've done things like prayer walks, and we've just with open hearts and a willingness to accept God's will in all of this and say, what would you have us do? Not what will we do and will you partner with us, but what would you have us do? And so I think there's just been this gradual shift, and like you said, God has just really been a gentleman through it, and has not been harsh or really done any of it, I think, in a corrective manner, but more in just a gentle, new direction. And so it was with great excitement that we kind of picked up this opportunity and said, okay. And I can remember the very first meeting we had, we let Pastor Zach come to, and then we said, okay, you're done. And we asked him, what are your hopes for this space? What is it that you would have us look for? Because we, want to make sure that we had, some direction in terms of what his hope was. And really, the biggest thing that I remember was just that it would give us time and opportunity to dream and really dig into what our mission is. Because while we know, our mission is to love and serve others well, we don't know, I think, big picture what that could build into. And so that was something interesting to think about, the difference between renting and buying, and how that correlated into spaces that were available, spaces that weren't available. It really has been an amazing journey, because as Rachel really said, we rode some highs and we rode some lows. But through it all, we remained willing and open, and through that process, God was just unbelievably faithful. And so the doors that he did lead us to, it didn't always lead us to a building or a space that we could occupy, but it led us to people, and it led us to organizations in the community that we never would have come in contact with had we not just been out seeking and searching for this space. It opened our eyes to ways that we can partner with other groups that, again, we would not be aware of. How many people here know that there is a camp in Delavan where you can go and do tree climbing? There is, legit 5 miles from this church, there is this huge, how many acres was it?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember.
So many acres.
20-something.
Right on Delavan Lake.
You can tree climb?
Yes.
You can tree climb.
It has this whole ropes course, and they teach kids how to climb trees. And
House in the Woods is what it's called. It's on North Shore.
But wait, you can
Yep.
climb in the
Yes.
trees?
Yeah, it's 30 feet of rope that you have to
Can you do that in the snow?
So we have our church retreats planned already.
Nice.
Yeah. But again, it was opportunities like that, again, in those lows where it's well, this won't be it. He just planted those seeds of, but there's opportunity. And so it was really interesting just being able to piece those puzzle pieces together and, really see what God is creating. Again, I'm just going to use this word a lot, for opportunity. We've openly asked, show us what you would have us do. How do we partner with you? And I don't think he's going to lay it out, where we have the full picture, but he's been very loving and laid some nice, hefty breadcrumbs for us. So I'm going to just share one last thing. We have put together a video that will ultimately reveal. But when Sarah, with all of her talent and capability, she orchestrated the video that we're going to share. And when she posted it in our group on Facebook, and I watched it for the first time, it really just captured our experience. And it was just a moment where I paused because I was so grateful for what she had created, but I just felt this new resounding love for our God because he's just so amazing. He knew like who to put in this team. He put 4 women who I would have been like, okay, but he knew the talents that and the hearts of each of us that we came together, and through this search, he just really exposed so much truth for all of us, and it was just like I think in my comment, I'm like fall on the floor, cry like a baby, so in love with our God right now, because he just is so amazing and so great, and I can't wait to see what this space, because again, it's a space for the church. This is a space, but what this space will provide for us to do, how we'll be able to love others well, how we'll be able to come together and gather in this space, is just going to be unique and different, but really great. So I don't know if you have anything you want to add before the video or after the video? All right, well then cue up the video.
When beginning the process of moving out of the theater, we had several goals in mind. We believe God has led us to our new home that far and away surpasses not only our basic needs, but everything on our wish list and more. Community Park in Delavan, a 4,000 square foot multi-purpose space, will allow us to do church in a new and exciting way. Not only does it meet the needs for our Sunday morning worship experience, it will allow us to love and care for the community of Delavan like never before. We will be able to worship God with beautiful Delavan Lake as our backdrop, and this ideal location will allow us to reach a new demographic. Located on Highway 50, an estimated 17,000 cars pass by Community Park every day. For the first time, we will be able to easily host community dinners, concerts, movies in the park, Easter egg hunts, food distributions, and so much more. The large commercial kitchen, chairs, tables, and stage are all available to us. The location on the lake allows us to minister to ice fishermen in the winter with hot cocoa, and in the summer, our baptisms will be breathtakingly beautiful. We were sensitive to our members' time and energy, so from the beginning we knew a once-a-week rental requiring a full setup each Sunday wasn't ideal. While this would be a Sunday-only space, we are able to utilize the chairs, tables, and stage already stored at Community Park. We are rolling out a whole new plan for Kids Church, literally. We are proposing purchasing 2 school buses, removing the seats, and creating a mobile classroom and an incredibly fun experience for our kids. Parked just outside the main building, kids will have access to the restrooms, grassy park, and playgrounds. We believe children will beg their parents to take them to church. These buses will also become our main form of advertising. Complete with a custom wrap job, we can use our buses for food distribution, take them to concerts in the park, and pass out free water. Or bring one to the county fair and allow nursing mothers to use it for privacy. Our mobile billboards will constantly remind people that they are welcome at the river. We believe God has blessed us by closing the doors to many of the obvious properties we had on our hearts and on our radar. This new way of doing church exemplifies the direction we have been moving this year. It's different, it serves the community, and it allows us the flexibility to practice a new way of experiencing and sharing God. By being largely mobile, we will be able to go where God sends us. Just like a river, our church will move and flow where God sees fit. Because in 2019, church is where you park it.
I think that tagline at the end is like my favorite thing. I was praying on it coming up. Oh man, I'm emotional. This is crazy. I was praying on it. I was like, that's what the church is supposed to be. We're supposed to be mobile. We're not a building. And if we just, it's a bus. It doesn't matter what it is. The church is where you park it, wherever you are. That's a great calling. Gosh, I get emotional about that doggone video. Can you guys just speak to maybe the excitement you feel about the building? Like, kind of talk about when you got there and what happened in that space and time. Because I think it's interesting to understand, for everyone to understand what led up to that moment, because there was, just to be honest, there was a week where God was closing door after door, and like Rachel and I sat on a Thursday, and we're just like, we don't know what's coming, and it's scary because we got to go in front of the church, and we got to make sure that we're shepherding the best we can, and we have no clue what's coming, and then that next Monday, they walked in this building. So can you speak to that process, Rachel?
Yeah, so I have coined that day Dark Thursday. Just for me personally. It really wasn't that dark, but it felt like it was at the time. Because all kidding aside, there is not a location in Delavan that was not for sale or for lease that this team did not investigate. And it really was coming down to the realization that we have legitimately looked at everything that is available. And Kate and I went to a location on that Dark Thursday, and when we walked in, we're like, okay, the door's open, we're gonna walk in, but we sat down and we're like, this is not it. And we couldn't back out of it. These people had graciously offered to meet with us, but it took seconds for us to be like, no. So when that happened and I came back into the office, Zach's question to me was, how much worse was it than you actually thought it was going to be? And I'm like, so much worse. But all of these steps in the process were important. Like Kate said, the relationships that were built. We learned what we did not need. And that is important when you're going to make a decision. I mean, you can think you know what you want, but until it's in your face, you don't know. And God was just very clear, like, no, you don't need that. You don't need that. And so this community park building was a location that we had considered not visiting because we were just kind of down. And we were like, no, every open door. So we walked through those doors and we met a man by the name of Steve.
Harbor Master Steve. And he is just a precious man. We got very used to people telling us no, and before we would even finish our sentences, they would have their reasons why it was not going to work. Steve
started unveiling things to us that we did not even ask for. And just unbelievably kind, unbelievably gracious, said over and over again, "We want you here." And we had not heard that in the entire process. And it's amazing what a building can do, but God had prepared our hearts through this process to just be so open to whatever it is that He has for us. And as we talked with Steve, we began to realize all of the ways that we can partner with Delavan that are already in action. And I don't think he really understood that we wanted to help. He was very concerned about having the space cleaned for us and ready for us after a wedding or some type of large function, and we would continuously say, "Hey, we'll help you clean, we'll help you." And it was just kind of going over, and then at one point it just like connected with him. And so we're already on a committee to help with some different events that the community park has coming up. And it's like God did what only God can do, and He perfectly aligned a building with the River Church in a way that we never could have done. So, yeah.
The very first meeting we had as a team with Zach there, I remember there were different ideas that were just kind of put out there, and it was like, well, maybe we could meet in a school, or maybe we could meet here, we could meet there. And for those of you who are newer to the river, before we were in this building, we met in a high school, and before that we met in a middle school. And when I heard those words, I thought, that is a step back. That is taking us, it's just a backwards thing to do, and I felt so uncomfortable about it. And the idea of having a Sunday-only space at first for me felt like it was a step backwards. And as this has gone on, I've realized like this is not a step backwards for the river. It's a step in a new direction, but it's a step out in faith. And when you're stepping out in faith, that's never backwards. And I was very concerned too about, and people had shared this concern with me also about doing church in a box. Oh, that's going to be so hard, church in a box. And this is not church in a box. This is church on wheels. This is church on feet, on the ground, out in the community, in a way that I think the heart of the river has always longed for. We have always longed to be out there in the streets, in the community, and we're going to be able to do that and partner with the community in ways that we've only dreamt about in the past. And 7 years ago, right now, I was on a missions trip in Hawaii, in Waikiki, where it's much warmer. And my Facebook memories are all like, oh, you're on the
Rubbing it in your
beach.
face.
And I'm like, it's -20 right now, thank you.
Do you know the community park has a beach?
It has a beach. Yeah.
And heat.
And, but when we were there on that missions trip 7 years ago, there's a church there called Surfers Church, and they don't have their own building. They meet in a community center. And I have never before in my life seen a church so invested in the community and the things that they do and are able to do. They don't have a permanent space. They just, the whole city is their church. And I called Sean, my husband, and was like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing and incredible. I think we just need to move here so we can do this every day. And he's like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna have to pray about that. But then someone else on the team was like, well, or you could take it back to Delavan and do it there. And so this feels like that to me, and it's the most excited I've been since I've been in Hawaii. I'm more excited about this than I am about being in Waikiki in 80-degree weather. So that says a lot.
Would you guys speak to just different opportunities that you've heard, just so you bring more people into the conversation? Like, what are specific opportunities that you guys have heard and witnessed and experienced through just talking to Steve or anything else otherwise?
Well, the community park location hosts a community Thanksgiving dinner every year for individuals who maybe can't do that on their own. And that's something that they already have up and running that we are able to partner with them. They have a huge 4th of July festival every year that we are going to be able to be a part of. They do reading buddies with the library. And then, yes, Steve is in the process of creating some senior days in the summer. And that's the committee that he's asked us to be a part of, just to help make these days super, super fun for the seniors in our community. Yeah. Those are just some of the things, but we talked to him about our, food distributions and wanting to be able to, if that's what God has for us, continue in that. And that is something that they were very excited about. Things, that we didn't ask for, they started to offer, like storage space and just, we literally were like, really, I mean, it was really pretty awesome. There was another thing I was going to say.
Yeah, and
You can take it away.
I'm just thinking through some of the other added features and bonuses that, again, Steve was like, oh yeah, you want this? Like, go ahead. So, like, to just name some of those, they do have a storage space. We walked up there and he was like, yeah, we'll build you shelves, like, we'll clear all of this out of there for you. And we kind of like, why? But so, like, that too removes that thought of, like, having to set up and take down and, like, haul it there and haul it back off site. But, the thought of having a bus, maybe 2 buses, he was like, yep, you can just park them here, put them right out by the road. They've offered us pretty much the entire fence to hang whatever type of marketing and, promotional event material or just church, banners to help the community understand where we are. I mean, they have a huge back patio that is had picnic tables donated, so there's just all of the space. He's like, yep, you guys could have church here, or you guys could go outside, or you can do this, you can bring in that, and it was just like so incredible that there were all these willingness to do. So when I think of like the events where we've had, church outside the building, and like all the different things we've done with, free prayer or hot cocoa distributions, coffee distributions, giving hot dogs away. All of those things are capable within our location. It's no longer having to go out and seek other parking lots or areas within the community that we can have these, mass gatherings. We'll be able to really facilitate those types of things and invite the community to us while still being able to go out and obviously hit the streets and do other things. I wish Steve would have been here today. Had we thought about it, like I wish
know.
Steve could have been here today just to.
He probably wouldn't have.
But he's just been such a joy to meet because again, it's almost like he just joined our team and became so passionate about it that he started dreaming and processing with us to like work through well, have you thought about this? Well, what about that? And it was just really great. So those are just some of the things that we thought of. The exciting part is that our, responsibility and our goal was to find a place, which we have. But this is where we want to now make it a church effort to think of like what other projects or community things can you dream of? Because we're only so many, we only have so many brain cells.
Yes.
That that's the exciting part is that everyone will be able to kind of take the things that they're passionate about and say, could we do this?
And our prayer as a team, and honestly, as the leadership team, is that the river will effectively use the resources that God has given, not to necessarily maintain a Sunday morning space, but to be able to pour that back out into the community. And we're walking into some pretty uncharted territories. I mean, we don't entirely know what that's going to look like, but to just know that we have the capability with this location to have resources freed up in ways that we really couldn't have imagined to be able to genuinely give back. And in the process of us trying to find a space, Kate had the idea. She heard about the local firefighters, and they have monthly trainings. And not only are they volunteer firefighters, but they also have to provide their own meal during this mandatory training. And so we decided that we were going to provide that meal for them. And not really having church resources to do it, we put together an action team through Thrivent to offset the cost of the meal. And we went in and just thought we were going to drop off some food and that was going to be the end of it. But I'm going to tell you that impacted all of us in ways that we could not have imagined. They were so unbelievably grateful and couldn't believe that this tiny little group of people wanted to provide a meal for them, that we appreciated what they do for the community. They called us out in front of them and applauded, which was very uncomfortable, but they had us pray over their meal, and I mean, that was impossible to get through without crying. And we all walked away, and this, like I said, was very early in the process, and we did not know how God was going to lead in the months to come. But we all walked away saying that is what we want to do all the time. Yeah. And this location allows us to do that. I mean, can you imagine all of the people in our community who serve and protect us on a daily basis having a huge banquet in their honor? I mean, it's just endless what we can do, but we just want to love the people that God allows us to cross paths with, and this space lets us do it.
Yeah. This is really awesome. And I'm about to start throwing a lot of logistical things at you because you might be sitting there and go like, you haven't talked about the bus. You haven't really talked about how we're moving out of the theater or where our offices are going to be or, all right, shake it off. Now I am going to start talking. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm totally okay with that. You may, yes. Do you want a microphone? Just so it. All right.
You had mentioned that there were, that you were enthusiastic about a couple buildings, and then for whatever reason, God closed those doors. What was it? Finances? Was it people's attitudes? What made those doors close to you on the buildings that you were initially enthusiastic about, and then eventually kind of started knocking you down? What caused? What were those obstacles?
In some of the locations, it was just, we don't do that here. For liability reasons, we cannot have a church in here. They would have to have security, they would have to have staff. Some of these locations, the staff only has off on Sunday, and they were not willing to do that. Many of the spaces, while listed as for sale or for lease, were truly only for sale. And some of the lease locations, they were a ridiculous amount of money on a monthly basis for 5 years. So you had to commit to that. Or you could have that lowered, but then it would be a building as is, and we would be financially responsible to completely restore the building on top of rent the space.
So it's a lot better over at the community center relative to dollars and cents.
Yeah, I can speak to that.
Yes.
One of my asks for this team was to be thinking about how we could be better stewards with our funds. And I kind of said, this is how much money we have to play with. Can you please stay under it? And we're not going to share that specific because like there's more to it than what just the number is, but the community park building is unbelievably a great financial move for us in terms of how we can be better stewards with the resources that we've been given, not just to keep doors open on a Sunday morning, but actually put money toward partnerships, put money toward investing in our people, investing in our staff. We're looking at really a model where money is not going to be, we're not going offering plate to offering plate. Because to be honest, in a lot of ways, our stewardship team has carried the burden of dealing with numbers week in and week out. And that was one of the things I told him. I was like, if you can find me a space that does not push our stewardship team to be a finance team, but really can help people become better stewards, that's what I would love to see. And they came back, and the number blew my mind. I said, that's awesome. So again, we'll share that eventually. We want to sign contracts. We want to make sure that's all done and written up before we start sharing all that. But all I have to say is, it's going to allow us to be stewards like we've never been able to before, which is really exciting for me, especially as I work with the elders and the ministry team and the stewardship team to say, hey, guess what? You get to help people become better stewards. You don't have to worry about the money. You just get to help people become better stewards. And I'm really excited for that for our stewardship team. So does that kind of touch on that, Mike? Okay. So I don't have much time. I'm just going to throw a lot of information at you, and I'm going to get you 5 to 10 minutes of asking questions if you'd like. But so this is primarily the way it's going to go. Our plan is to, by Easter Sunday, be in the community park building full-time, all in. We are planning to do a big thing for our community, like a grand reopening kind of deal. However, for us in the River Church, we will start meeting on Sundays starting at the end of March. I think it's the 30th, correct? 31st. So March 31st is technically our soft opening of the community park building. This is going to allow us a few weeks to just get some kinks out, feel some stuff out, figure out what we want to do, how we're going to want to do it. If something doesn't feel right, we're able to adjust. So then on Easter Sunday, that's kind of our first Sunday, our first official Sunday. So we'll tell the community, but all of you know, March 31st is our first Sunday that we're going to be in that space. As for our offices, I don't know if some of you might know this, some of you might not know this, but we own a building, a property on 8th Street here in Delavan, and we are intending to renovate that space in the basement, especially to be outfitted for our office space. So all of our operations will be used in that space. Everything from Monday to Saturday will be run out of that space. So our address will be pretty much in that space, and we're looking to renovate that space fairly quickly. I've told kind of a few people that I want to be in there by the beginning of March. We'll see if that actually happens, but that's my intention. As for a couple of the crazy things, so the bus idea, Sarah's not here, and I can kind of speak to this without her being here, but she wrote her master's thesis on minimalistic living in tiny houses, so that's always been kind of in our DNA. In fact, she's wanted to move me into one since I can remember, and I've held her back, and we were sitting, and we've been talking about this, what are we going to do with kids' church, right? It's a big open space, 4,000 square feet. What are we going to do for kids' church? And we were we can build a storage container outside. And all of a sudden, we kind of I don't know if it was one of us or a collective of us, we're let's get a bus, a school bus, and just make this thing crazy awesome in a way that we've not spent money on our kids before, and make a space that is really embracing of our kids' ministry. And it really, like you saw in the video, we've started talking with companies that can wrap the bus and do this mobile billboard for us. And so we're really excited about that project. We talked a little bit about, in the video talked about this, and I think we talked about it here, that we wanted to reduce the setup. That was one of the biggest things. And Jesse said it perfect. You can look at what we're talking about here and go, no, that is a step back. You're taking a step back as a church. And I can understand where people would say that, especially if you think about the setup and the things that are going to have to go into week in and week out in that space, which we didn't even talk about. A lot of weeks we're just going to be able to leave our stuff set up because they don't use the building usually in the winter. So a lot of weeks we're just going to let it set and we don't have to worry about it, which is something that Steve's promised us, which is unbelievable. So you could see this as you're taking a step back until we buy a new building. And I don't want you to think that. At least from me, that's not what I'm saying. This is a step in a new direction. A step where we're not worried about the four walls of a building, but we're worried about what does it mean to be the church in our community. And we believe given our finances that is going to come off of this, really given the space that we're going to be moving into and the ability to change it up and adapt to our where we are and how we're feeling for that particular series or that season, we feel like this is a step in a completely different and new direction. It's doing church in a way that is not like written in books very often. And trust me, I've looked. And doing church out of a bus and having like a mobile AV station so that we can just pull a truck in and open it up and run sound out of, like, this is crazy stuff that we're talking about. And so I want you to hear very clearly from me that this is, in my opinion, is not a step back. This is a step in a very new direction. But we are thinking about the ways to make it simple, so that it's going to be a pop-up. We're ready to rock and roll. Whether it's in that building or in the park here, Phoenix Park, we can pop up and we can run kids' church all the same. We can run sound all the same. It'll be like this, like church is where you park it. That is what we are hoping for in this. So when we talk about what does church look like, if it's not in a building like this, for me, I'm excited about that, and we're excited about that. But that is an important transition point. I think Rachel said it. This team was tasked to find a space. This team has found a space. Our elders have voted on it. We've signed contracts. We're ready to rock and roll. But now this is where we need everybody to jump in. If this is your first Sunday, you're like, what in the world are they talking about? I'm like, if something about this is compelling to you, I want you to jump all in with us. Because every aspect of this next season of our church is not a me thing. It's not our elders. It's not our stewardship team. It's not this transition team. This is an all-in thing. And I think Tony handed out cards. Tony, did you hand out cards to everyone? You got a card on your way in? If you need a pen, if you need a card, Tony's got them. But one simple way to jump all in with us is to commit to just prayer. Commit to this a season of prayer with us. We've done 40 days of prayer. We've done prayer walks. The concept of prayer is central to who we are as a River Church. And we want you to commit to 11 weeks, 77 days, kind of a biblical number, 77 days of prayer until Easter Sunday when we're fully in this new space. And we just welcome you to be a part of that with us. So if you sign that card, pop it in the... Ooh. It's all right. He's good. If you can just drop that in the offering plate later on, that'd be great. If you are inclined to do construction work, if you can lay floor, if you want to do drywall, if you want to tear walls down, like we need people like that. Construction on the bus, construction in 8th Street, we need people like that. It's coming. If you want to be a part of working with AV, we have ways to set up with AV. If you're looking to maybe be a part of the design of the church bus or the bus itself, like the inside, if you like have a mind, you're like, I know exactly what it colors and everything. I'd love for you to be a part of that. Am I missing something else?
The community park space.
Community park space. If you're interested in like, I want to help design the worship space. I want to help design the hospitality space. I want to be a part of forming the space that when people walk in, they know that Jesus is in the midst of this place. That if you are interested in creating space and really forming space, I want you to be a part of this. I want everyone to be a part of this. I cannot understand. And if you can't do any of that, you can just pray. I need you to pray. Just sign that card today. Pop it in the plate as it goes by today, because we want this to be a church thing. Because the only way that any of this has happened is just humbling ourselves before God's awesomeness in prayer. Every step of the process has been bathed in prayer, because we cannot do this without God's awesome power. Amen? So today, if you're interested in helping out in any way, we do have sign-up sheets on the other side of the coffee bar. And I would just plead with you, just in the worship time, and I know we don't have much time, but in the worship time that's coming, say, God, how can I be used today? God, how can I be a part of this next season with the River Church today? How can I be a part of this? Because I'm telling you, church, there's something exciting here. I can't describe it. I don't have the words other than to say, there's something fun happening. And God is in the very middle of it. And if that's happening for us, I want to be a part of it. And that next season's in this community park building. That next season's in 8th Street. But don't miss this. This next season is right in our community. The reason why I mean, we are not going anywhere from Delavan because we want to be here. God has called us to be rooted here and grow where we're planted. And that's the season we're in. And we need everybody in. We need you all in. Jump all in into the river. Because it's time. This is what church is all about. This movement that you're feeling, the excitement that we have felt, and we're excited that all of you are part of this now. The next season is exciting. We want you all in with us. Do you have anything else to say? Have I left anything out? Gosh, we have had so many doggone conversations about all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm excited to just be sitting in front of you and be like, oh, here it is. Let's watch the video again. Watch this Pastor Zach cry again.
It's good.
Great.
It's good.
I've just blown through. If you got to leave, I understand. I don't want to hold you, but if anybody have questions, like I want to be able to have that, and I want to be very clear. I might not have the answers. They might not have the answers, and I'm okay with that at this point. What things are going to look like after we move, I have zero clue, and I'm totally okay with that because I believe if we are following God's footsteps, it doesn't matter where we go as long as we know who's in charge. So does anybody have questions? Any questions? Yeah. Mike's got a microphone too.
Okay.
What about the homeless?
Yeah, one of the things that we talked to Steve about is potentially hosting the guys in that space. So I've also talked with Lynn Curtis, who's the executive director of the Spirit of Hope Men's Shelter, just letting her know what's happening, allowing her into the process. So it's my intent that we're going to fulfill our final week of hosting the guys in March here in this space. And then afterwards, we'll be working with Spirit of Hope. It might not be in that space. We might be partnering with other churches to use their space, but use our manpower, so to speak. So I'm continuing. I told Lynn the other day when I met with her, we're not pulling out of this partnership. We'll figure out how we're going to make this happen. So does that answer the question? Perfect.
Two-part question.
Yeah.
First of all, how long are we committed, or how long is our contract
Yep.
for the space? And the other part is, I believe it was about a year ago, Township Park talked about tearing that building down
Yeah.
and building a new one. So what's
Yeah.
going on with that?
Yeah, I can speak to the first question. So we signed a 2-year contract with them. We believe that really 2 years gives us an opportunity, ample opportunity to explore what is it that we're trying to be, how is God calling us to be, and I mean at the rate that they're charging us per Sunday, we can easily pay for 2 years quickly. So it's a 2-year contract. Do you guys want to speak to just what Steve has told you about that building?
Yeah, in our conversations with him, just talking about the space and him offering to create space for us, and we asked a lot of different things. And he mentioned that the city is looking at completely renovating that space. So wrapping like the steel beams in wood and making it, I guess, a more finished space. So they don't have any desire to tear it down. They actually want to do the opposite and make it something that they probably never thought they would. So,
Yeah, I mean, certainly, Jen, from I think their hope is to host more events in that space. And from what I understand from the conversation that we've had, they're looking to invest more into that space to make it, up to par with a lot of different venues in the area. So, anybody else? Questions? Yeah, Barry. Sorry, Barry. Mike, can you give him the?
A large bell to ring.
You think I have a large bell to ring? Go ding dong, ding dong.
A large bell to ring?
consider it.
We can see what we can do.
We'll talk with the harbor master.
I bet the harbor master has a bell.
Steve, we need a bell.
Oh yeah, yeah. Barry, you need to be our bell ringer. Yeah, Steve.
Is the space available every Sunday, or are there
Every Sunday.
any other events that would trump?
Nope, every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Yeah, the only issue would be is that they'd have events late at night on Saturday, but Steve has assured us that they'd have a crew in cleaning it up, and that it wouldn't be an issue at all for us. So every Sunday for the next 2 years.
I don't really have a question, but I have a comment that we are the church. We the people. We are the church. It's never been this building. It's never been the old school. And the amazing openness of the leadership for this transition team is just amazing. God requires faith to please him. And he is so pleased with the leadership's openness that didn't have a set plan. They knew that the church is the people and the hearts of the people. So going this mobile direction, going to alternative venues, entertaining, expanding the ministries, and the partnering part is all God's plan. He has given this church, which is all of us, favor in the community, favor with the government. I remember those hymns, the Christmas hymns that described the Messiah, Savior to the world, Emmanuel, God with us. And one of those lines was that the government would be on his shoulders. So is it any wonder that we have favor with the township government? Amen. That want to partner with us? And what do they want from us? They want Jesus. Mm-hmm. They want the love of the Lord shed abroad in our community. Only God could orchestrate this sort of outreach, this sort of coming together of an entire community. I'm humbled for what the Lord is doing. I'm excited for what he's going to do. He is well pleased with his servants. By faith, we make this transition together. I'm all in.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody? Barry, sure, man. We can't. Barry, I like what you're thinking. Pancake Sundays.
This guy's all about serving.
We'll make it. I think Mary's got a question.
Mary.
Hold up, so everyone can hear you, Mary. Sorry.
In a lighter way, I would like to see a tent meeting at Easter, just like Billy Graham used to do. That's how he began.
Sure.
A revival, right? A revival to this whole thing.
It's certainly a revival of some sort. That's for sure. Yeah. This is. I appreciate. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate all of you. And you, and you, and you, and you. All of this is humbling, man. Like, why do I get to be a part of this? This is the craziest thing to me. And I hope in many ways that you are blessed by whatever's coming next for the River Church. And not only you're blessed, but you're able to be a blessing to others. Mm-hmm. Rachel, can you pray for us as we head out? No, I want to sing one more song, if it's okay.
All right, and offering. All right, well, Jesus, we just thank you so very much for just your immense love. You have a heart for this community, and you were here so much longer ahead of us. And you know each person by name. And Lord, we know it is your heart's desire that people come to know you, and we just are honored and, as Pastor Zach said, unbelievably humbled to be a part of whatever it is that you are doing here. Thank you for leading and guiding this church. Thank you for being just the most amazing example of a gentleman to us and for loving us well. And may we just turn what you have given to us and just be the hands and feet that you have called us to be as we move forward. And we just thank you and pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.